Hello, this is Crystal, and I'm from Lexi Bug Creations. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'm here to show you how to make an angled trifold card. And as you can see, I have a few different options here. First, we slide off the belly band, and then we open it up to reveal this lovely, I just love this. It's so pretty, and it's very easy to make. So let's get started. First thing that you will need is a sheet of cardstock. This will be our base, and this measures 5.5 inches by 11 inches. And I'm just going to grab my trimmer, and we're going to do some scoring. I'll get my cutting blade out of the way. And we're going to score on the long side at 3 3/8 of an inch. And then we're going to slide it down, and we're going to score it at 7 5/8. Okay, so I'm just going to put that away for now. And now what we need to do is we need to measure for our angled cuts. So I'm just going to take a pencil, and I'm going to use my grid sheet here. So on this left corner, I want to measure from the corner down 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to go and make a mark at 1.5. And then along from the bottom left corner towards the center, I'm going to mark that at 1 inch. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So from the top right, I want to measure down 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to measure from the bottom right 1 inch. Okay, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to take my piece of Designer Series paper, and this measures 3 1/4 inch by 5 1/4 inch, and that's the height. So if you have a directional paper, you want it to be the 5 1/4 inches height. So now we're going to do the same thing. So on the left, from the left corner, we're going to measure down 1.5 inches, make a mark, and then from the bottom left, we're going to measure 1 inch. Of course, I've used some paper here that's a little bit tough to see those marks, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so now we're going to go and get our trimmer, and we're going to make some cuts. So the first cut we're going to do is we want to line up from that score line, that was the 3 3/8, and we're going to line up with that pencil mark that we made at 1.5 inches. So I'm just lining them up in the center of my trough here, and then I'm going to close it, and I'm just going to cut. So now we kind of ended up with that. Okay, we don't need this piece, but you can save it for something else or just as a scrap. Okay, so now what we want to do is from this new corner that we just created, we're going to line that up with and that 1 inch mark. So again, I'm just lining up those in my trough, and I'm going to cut. Okay, so now we've created those two angles. And we're going to do the same on the other side. So from that 7 5/8 score line, we're going to measure to that 1.5. Okay, and then from our new corner to that 1 inch mark. And there we go. So there's our rhombus shaped, I don't know, trying to remember back to 9th grade math. Okay, so then now with our designer paper, we're going to cut or line up from the top right to the 1.5 inch mark. And then again from our new corner to the 1 inch mark. Okay. And there we go. So now we have this piece that when we take our card, so this is going to be the back. So when we fold these in like that, this piece is going to go here. Okay, so now when we're looking at the back of the card, it's going to fit over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place it on there, and I'm just seeing how it lines up, and it doesn't line up perfectly. So what I'm going to first do is I'm now going to cut 1/16 of an inch off the long side. So just a tiny bit. And it doesn't, you know, it's because when we're measuring, we might not measure in the exact location, or we might not cut, you know, if we cut right to this, to the mark or right above the mark each time. So don't worry about it if you don't get it exactly right the first time. So now I'm lining this up again, and I'm still not really pleased with how it's sitting. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to cut off another 1/16 of an inch. And let's see. Yeah, see, now that's sitting a little bit better. It's still a little bit off right there. So maybe I'll see what happens if I cut another 1/16 of an inch off. I've made a few of these cards now, and every time it's different. So don't worry if it doesn't quite line up. And I honestly feel like if somebody's going to take your card and look at it in that way that it's not lined up, then they're not deserving to receive your card. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. It doesn't quite, it's not quite perfect. It's not, you know, it should be about 1/8 of an inch. It doesn't completely, so my angles are just slightly off, but I'm not going to be too worried about it. So the next thing that we want to do is we need to run through our embossing. So I'm just grabbing my plates for my die cutting machine. Okay. So now we're going to be running through the other side here. So when you're looking at the card, this is the side we want to do. When it's on the back, we're going to do the right side. So I'm going to take my embossing folder, and what I want to do, so on the embossing folders, the pattern doesn't quite go all the way to the edge. So what I want to do is I want to line up my score line with the edge of the pattern. So we don't want to emboss on the back of the card, so we're just going to try and do that. Okay, Now, normally when you run this through your machine, you're going to always have your folded edge going into the machine, but because we're embossing on this long piece, it doesn't, you know, if you're using an embossing folder where the pattern doesn't really matter, then you can run it through as you normally would. But because I'm running one where there's words, I want the words to be upright. Okay, so I'm going to run it through sideways. Use my embossing plate, and then we're just going to run it through. And there we go. Okay, let's put those away. So there we have it. So it's lined up pretty nicely with the side of that. Okay, so the next thing that we can do is now we can go and we can adhere our designer paper to the other side of the card. And when I'm inking up on an angled piece, I usually like to make sure that I'm getting my adhesive right up into the corner of that angle so it doesn't have any lifting. And I'm usually a little generous with my ink because I like to make sure it's going to stay down. Now when I'm adhering this, I'm going to try and do the best I can lining it up. And there we go. I see I have some pencil marks that I'm just going to go in and erase. Okay, so there we have the base of the card. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just attach, so you can use just a plain white piece. This is vanilla, and it would be cut 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. But what I have actually done is I have actually used the die cut. This goes from the Color and Contour, the matching dies, and I've just used the largest die from that set. So I actually, one of my crafty lady friends who does classes, online classes with me, when we did this card the other night, one of my ladies actually used this die cut and I loved it. So I told her I was going to steal it because I thought, wow, it adds just a little bit of extra texture to the front of the card. So now all we have left to do is to make our belly band. So I have a piece that's the same cardstock as my base, and this measures 1 inch by 11 inches. And I'm just going to slide this underneath. And I like to have my grid sheet here because it helps me line everything up and make sure everything's going to be straight. So I'm just taking that, and then I'm just going to fold this over. Now when you're doing a belly band, you don't want it to be too tight so that it doesn't slide, but you want it to be tight enough so that it doesn't just fall off. Okay, so then I'm just pinching the sides just to kind of get that fold in there. And then what I like to do, so this is the way my belly band is I like to double up on the adhesive. So I'm going to put some adhesive here and as well as over here. I find when you double up like that, it just makes it a stronger connection. And because it's something that, you know, it's going to be pulled on and off, you want to make sure that it's going to stay together. Okay, so just making sure. Okay, So there we go. So now all we have left to do is embellish it. So we're going to take it off, and I'm just going to stamp a sentiment, and I'm using my coordinating ink, so I use the Smoky Slate for my card base, and I'm going to stamp on a piece of Berry Vanilla. And then I'm going to use my rectangle postage punch and just lining that up in the center, punching it out. Okay. And then what I've also done is I had cut some of this lovely leaves, I guess, from, I think this is from the Beauty of Tomorrow die sets, but I don't want to attach the whole thing to it, so I'm kind of just going to cut some little pieces, and I just want to see how much I want to use. I don't think I quite need all of this. So let's just keep trimming this down. So we can have this kind of coming off of there like that. And then maybe we'll just have another little piece coming from the bottom. Something like that. That just brings in a little bit of color. Okay, so I'm just going to put the belly band on. A little bit snug, but we'll get it. Okay, there we go. Close this, 'cause I'll get ink all over the place if I don't do that. So I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive just to put down these little things here. Where's my other one? There it is. And I'm going to get my dimensionals and put them right top of there. We just want to make sure that we're not going to get any adhesive on the card, because otherwise our belly band won't open. So there we go. Put that right on there like that. And let's get some jewels, and let's see, I'm going to use a large one. Put that one down here, and two smaller ones. There we go. So I put my sentiment and embellishments kind of over on this side because I didn't want to cover up any more of this lovely, beautiful paper. I think that's from the Peaceful Place pack of paper. Oh, it's so gorgeous. It's all this black and gray and silver. It's very lovely. But I also wanted to just bring in that little pop of color with the green. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed watching my video. This is my first YouTube video that I'm posting, so I'm a little rusty. Hopefully I will get better, and I hope you continue to watch. Please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Have a good day.